Okay, so this video is going to go over the installation of the Hopkins towed vehicle wiring kit. These kits are vehicle specific, so you just need to make sure you purchase the wiring kit for your specific vehicle. This one is built to work on a Jeep JK. What I like about this kit is it's pretty much just plug and play. It's got the OEM style connectors already on the kit. So pretty much all you have to do is plug it in line between your OEM wiring and your tail lights. The other thing I like about it is you don't have to worry about splicing your wires and installing the diodes. This kit already has the diodes on it. So like I say, pretty much plug and play. So let's go ahead and get started getting it installed. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is you're going to want to remove your driver's side tail light assembly. So on these tail lights, to remove them, you only have to remove these two screws here on the inside. These two you don't have to remove. Once you remove these, you just pop this light assembly out. So you're going to need a number 3 Phillips. You can use either a screwdriver or a bit like I am. Just want to make sure you don't strip your heads out. Okay, once you have those 2 screws out, all you got to do is just nudge it on the side right there and it comes out. Here's your wiring connectors. What you're going to do from this point is go ahead and disconnect your OEM wiring harness. You can do that by just pressing down on this tab and pulling the wiring harness out. As easy as that. And then just set your tail light assembly to the side. Okay, so on your Hopkins wiring harness, the connectors that have the brown and the yellow wires on it, you're going to want to connect it to your wiring harness on the driver's side of the vehicle. Basically all you have to do is take your connector from the Hopkins side, plug it into the OEM wiring harness, push it into it, clicks, grab your tail light assembly, the other connector, you'll connect to it, and just line it up, press it in until you hear it click, and then basically what's going to happen is I'm going to have to run the rest of my wires down through the compartment here, and there's just a piece of foam that I'm going to go through, drop it onto the bottom side of the vehicle, and then have to run it over to the passenger side. Also, this diode converter here will need to go on the driver's side. I'm just going to use some zip ties, hopefully you can see it, and install it on this bracket back here. Now that hole was already in the foam, so that made things a lot easier. Just ran my wires and connectors through that existing hole. So I'm just going to reinstall this piece of foam. It pretty much just lays down at the bottom of this compartment here. And that just helps prevent a lot of your water and dirt as you're driving from being kicked up into this compartment. All right, so let's get this diode installed. All right, so I got the diode converter there zip tied to that little brace, and should be pretty steady. So I've already dropped my wires down through the bottom to run to the other side, and the ones that are going to run to the front. So now I just need to reinstall the tail light assembly. Just make sure you get your screws lined up. If you need, you can use a screwdriver just to help you get it lined up. All right, everything's going in. I just get it down almost there, and then I'll snug it up with a number 3 Phillips head screwdriver. I don't want to over torque this. Okay, the next thing I need to do is run the passenger side connectors over to the passenger tail light. I'm just going to run it up underneath here over, to the other side. Just want to make sure you stay away from anything that's hot. You got the muffler that sits there. I'm thinking I'm just going to run it along the top of the frame and some wire loom, zip tie it to the frame. Once I get to the other side, I'll have to run it up to that wiring or up to that tail light assembly. Okay, so I was able to run the wiring across the top of the frame here. Got it zip tied 2 or 3 places across. It's easy to do. Keeps it away from the muffler. I've got it in some wire loom for extra protection, and I dropped it down on the other side over there on the passenger side so I can run it up to the passenger tail light. Okay, on the passenger side here, you've got this plastic panel, and above that plastic panel it's got some of that spray foam in there for protection, I guess. So what I'm going to do is drill a hole up through here, run my wires through that plastic panel. Okay, so I've got the hole drilled. I used a 1/2-inch drill bit. Got my wire and wire loom ran through the hole up into the area where the tail light assembly is. Okay, let's take a look at where the wires come through. As you can see, down there at the bottom is where the wire comes through the foam. Just ran it up. And one thing I did do was to keep that hole as small as I could through that panel. I went ahead and cut my wires just a few inches below the connectors. Ran the wire through the panel and up through the foam, and then just used these butt connectors to splice the wires back together. They have heat shrink on them, so you just use a heat gun to shrink that up, make it waterproof. Made the connections. Now all I have to do is reinstall the tail light assembly. You do it exactly the same way you would with the driver's side, just using the 2 screws. Okay, so the next thing you need to do is just run the remainder of the wiring harness up to the front of your vehicle. I just kind of followed the frame all the way forward. Okay, so your wires on the Hopkins wiring kit, they are going to be labeled. As you can see, the yellow light or the yellow wire is labeled as your left turn. Your green wire is going to be labeled as your right turn, and this brown wire is going to be labeled for your navigation, which is your running lights. Okay, so I've gotten all the screws out of the post, so let's take a look at it. All right, up here, this flat part of your connector, when you install it onto the base plate, that's going to be at the top. So just remember that flat portion will be at the top when you install it. So let's take a look at the pin markings. All right, so the TM, that stands for trailer markers. So you're going to attach the brown wire to this pin for your trailer lights, your marker lights, running lights. Next to that is the S pin. That pin is always going to have a constant 12 volts running to it. So you could use this when for like installing a trickle charger or anything else that you're going to want to have a constant 12 volts to. The A pin, that's going to be your center pin. Okay, now what that pin is, that's your reverse pin. So whenever you go into reverse, that pin is going to get 12 volts. That pin would be good for running, like say if you're running a trailer and you wanted to put reverse lights on that trailer. So whenever you went into reverse on your towing vehicle, those lights would get power. Okay, so next to that is RT. That's going to stand for your right turn. And that's where you're going to plug in the green wire. Next to it is LT for left turn. That's where you're going to plug in the yellow wire for your left turn signal and also your brake lights. Okay, so on the left over here, let's see if we can get it. Okay, GD. All right, that stands for the ground wire. So you're going to have to run a ground wire from here to a grounding point onto your towed vehicle. All right, so let's go ahead and start stripping wires and getting them into the pins. So I'm going to go ahead and hook up the green wire first, and we're going to hook that up to the pin marked RT. Okay, so you're going to want to run your wires through this boot first. That way it's ready to go. So basically just route it to the small end of the boot because the larger end will go over the rear of the connector as such. Okay, just screw it in. It doesn't have to be excessive torque on it. Just get it down, get it snug, and you'll be good to go. All right, so the next wire that I'm going to do is going to be the yellow wire, which is going to be your left turn, which is the pin right next to it, and it's labeled LT. All right, so your brown wire, that wire is going to connect to the pin that was TM. All right, so next thing, I'm going to have to find a grounding point on the vehicle, and then we'll run our ground wire from the pin marked GD. Okay, so I ran the ground wire up to one of the OEM grounding points in the engine bay. Okay, so after connecting your ground wire to a grounding point on the vehicle, you're just going to take your ground wire and you're going to put it into the pin that's marked GD and just tighten it down. Okay, so you take your wire from your trickle charger and you're going to plug it into the S pin on your 6-pin connector. All right, so when you get all your wires connected, what you can do to help prevent corrosion is just put a layer of dielectric grease around all your pins and wires. Once you get that done, you just slide your rubber cap back on. I would put some dielectric grease around that as well, and you can put some in here if you want, but it's not necessary because you've already got it on your pins. So then once it's connected, all you're going to do is connect your 6-pin connector to your mounting point on your brace. You'll want the spring up top. That way it'll keep all the water from getting into the connectors. And you attach it with the 2 self-tapping screws. All right, so that wraps up the installation of the Hopkins wiring kit. I just find that's the best option because it's permanent. You don't have to worry about it every time you go to tow your Jeep. It's a simple installation. I'll tell you what, if you like the video, you think it helped you out, do me a favor, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.